The Dark Secret. How Daenerys Killed Her Mother, a Game of Thrones Tragedy. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we delve into one of the darkest and most tragic corners of Game of Thrones lore, a story not often discussed, but one that shapes everything we know about Daenerys Targaryen. This is the tale of how Daenerys, the Dragon Queen, unknowingly became the very reason her mother died. That's right. This episode uncovers the haunting reality of Daenerys Targaryen and the mother she never knew. We'll explore the timeline, the hidden pain, the war-torn decisions, and the consequences that came from the birth of a child destined for both greatness and madness. Was Daenerys cursed from the moment she was born? Was the death of Queen Rhaella Targaryen merely a tragic accident, or something far more symbolic of the blood-soaked destiny that awaited her? Stick with us as we reveal a chapter soaked in grief, legacy, fire, and blood. Who was Rhaella Targaryen? Before we understand how Daenerys' birth became her mother's death sentence, we need to know who Rhaella Targaryen truly was. Rhaella was the queen consort of the Mad King, Aerys II Targaryen, and the mother of Rhaegar, Viserys, and ultimately Daenerys. She was born into royalty and forced into marriage with her brother Aerys, a common but cruel Targaryen tradition designed to keep the bloodline pure. Though Aerys once showed promise as a king, his reign descended into paranoia, madness, and cruelty. And for Rhaella, that madness became a daily nightmare. According to the lore, Aerys abused Rhaella mentally, emotionally, and physically. He accused her of adultery. He dismissed her maids, locked her away, and even burned people he thought were conspiring against him. She suffered multiple miscarriages, and her pregnancies became a symbol of sorrow rather than joy. Rhaella's early children were met with tragedy. She gave birth to stillborns, to infants who didn't survive more than a few months, and even one child who was born deformed with bat-like wings and scales, a twisted mutation that only deepened Aerys' madness. Only two of her children lived for long: Rhaegar Targaryen, the noble and tragic prince, and Viserys, the bitter boy who grew into a broken man. But Rhaella's body, ravaged by stress and mistreatment, was barely holding on when she became pregnant again during the height of Robert's rebellion. Escape to Dragonstone. By the time Rhaella was pregnant with Daenerys, Robert's rebellion had already begun. Rhaegar had been killed by Robert Baratheon at the Trident. The Targaryen dynasty was crumbling. King's Landing was no longer safe. Rhaella, heavily pregnant, was evacuated to Dragonstone, the ancestral seat of House Targaryen, an isolated, storm-battered island fortress. She was accompanied by her son Viserys, who was just 8 years old at the time. But what was meant to be a sanctuary was a place of desperation. The storm that raged around Dragonstone on the night of Daenerys' birth would be remembered forever. It was said that lightning shattered the castle towers and waves crashed higher than the battlements. The entire region was engulfed in unnatural chaos, almost as if the gods were mourning what was to come. And there, in a cold, damp chamber of Dragonstone, Queen Rhaella went into labor. A death in birth. It was a difficult labor. Rhaella was weak, her body already deteriorating after years of trauma and childbirth. There were no maesters present, only midwives and Targaryen loyalists who had fled with her from King's Landing. Daenerys was born amidst the storm, her screams joining the howling winds and thunder outside. But just moments after delivering her, Rhaella died. No poison, no sword, no bloodshed, but still, death at the hands of destiny. Though it wasn't Daenerys' intent, her very existence marked the end of her mother's life. Rhaella never got to hold her daughter. She never saw her grow. She never gave her a name. That was done later by Sir Willem Darry, one of the Targaryen loyalists who smuggled Daenerys and Viserys to Essos. And so, the girl who would one day call herself Mother of Dragons was born an orphan. This is where the idea of matricide enters the conversation. Not in the way of murder with intent or malice, but rather the cruel hand of fate, where the child's birth inadvertently brings death to the mother. In many ways, Daenerys inherited her mother's suffering, not her warmth. She inherited her father's madness and her brother's ambition, but the love that Rhaella might have given her died that night in the storm. The weight of a legacy. As Daenerys grew up in exile, she never truly knew her story. Viserys told her bits and pieces, often twisted by his own bitterness. He claimed they were robbed of a throne, betrayed by Westeros, and that only fire and blood could make it right. But Dany rarely heard about her mother. The weight of legacy fell on her shoulders before she could even speak. She had no mother to guide her, to comfort her, or to teach her gentleness. All she had were stories of dragons, thrones, betrayal, and a sense that the world owed her everything. One might wonder, if Rhaella had lived, would Daenerys have turned out differently? Would she have held on to her humanity longer? Would she have still burned King's Landing if she had a mother to pull her back from the edge? In the end, the loss of Rhaella was the first domino in a series of tragedies that shaped Daenerys' rise and fall. It was the beginning of her isolation, her transformation, her descent, symbolism and curse of fire. Daenerys was born during a storm. She walked through fire. She emerged with dragons. Her very existence feels mythological, almost divine. But mythology often comes with a curse. In Westerosi history, there are recurring patterns. Blood for fire, death for life, sacrifice for power. Just as Daenerys brought dragons into the world by walking into her husband's funeral pyre, her own birth brought her mother's life to an end. One life for another. It is eerily poetic, and this ties into the Targaryen madness, the infamous line. Every time a Targaryen is born, the gods toss a coin. Perhaps the coin was tossed the night of the storm, and the result was Daenerys, forged by tragedy, consumed by destiny. She called herself the Breaker of Chains, the Khaleesi, the Queen of the Andals. But the one title she never used was daughter. She never got the chance to be one. Visions, regrets, and the ghost of Rhaella. In the House of the Undying, one of the most mysterious moments in the entire series, Daenerys walks through visions. She sees the Iron Throne covered in ash, and a house in the snow. Some believe these were symbolic warnings of her future. Others believe they were fragments of her past and future colliding. But among these visions, we never see Rhaella. Why? Perhaps it's because Daenerys had no memory to anchor her to her mother. Or maybe the absence of Rhaella in her visions is a sign that her destiny was always one apart from family. She would never be grounded by love. Only fire. One can imagine a haunting scenario. If Daenerys had lived longer, if she had survived Drogon's escape and somehow resurfaced, would she have been haunted by the mother she never knew? Would the truth of her birth, that her life cost Rhaella hers, have driven her deeper into guilt? We'll never know, but the ghost of Rhaella remains a silent tragedy, one that shaped the most powerful woman in the world. So, now we understand what no one ever dared to say out loud. Daenerys Targaryen killed her mother. Not by choice, not by hatred, but by merely coming into this world. Her birth ended a line of Targaryen queens and began the era of fire and blood. From the moment she took her first breath, fate had already written her story in ash. This isn't a tale of blame, it's a tale of sorrow. Of what happens when power is born from pain. And how a little girl with silver hair grew up without a mother, without a home, and without the warmth that might have saved her from herself. In the end, Daenerys didn't just lose her mother. She lost the part of herself that could have made her whole. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden tragedies of Game of Thrones. Until next time, Valar Morghulis.